Hello and welcome to Pat Bear's Anime Club, an ongoing video series where I take a look at something from the world of anime or manga that I want to chat with you about. You know, it could be a deep dive into a particular subgenre or an individual show, or it could be looking at themes, or maybe it's just me talking about how a previous season wrapped up of anime and previewing the next season, which will be coming soon. We'll be wrapping up the winter 2022 season and getting ready for the spring 2022 season very, very soon. But this one, so I was talking to a friend about the last episode, which was where I talked about some anime that is out here in winter 2022 that I was interested in. I talked about In Other Words Sketch, which we chat about. You can watch the video there. And he said, that's got to be, my friend said, that's got to be the weirdest premise for an anime. In this case, that was two girls crash landed from a plane crash, and in order to keep themselves sane, they are reenacting sketches from a real, actual existing sketch group that existed in the 90s. And they remember the sketches word for word, and they're performing them for themselves. Um, and my response generally was, no, that's not the weirdest that I've ever seen. There are far weirder, and I like some of the weird. No, now that's what this particular topic is going to be about. It is four shows with weird premises that I love. Now, that's not saying that I love every weird show that's come out. In fact, there are a lot of them that I just want nothing to do with because they're just maybe they're too weird, or they're just like, yeah, they're weird, but they're not good. It's subjective. But here are four shows with weird premises that I also enjoy. Maybe you'll enjoy them as well. Maybe you'll see one of your favorites on here. And in the comments below, you can let me know what your favorite weirdo shows are. Because maybe I've seen them and I didn't love them. Or maybe I've never heard of them because maybe they're so weird that people are like not into it. But like, I'm not talking about like Serial Experiments Lane or like FLCL or Paranoid Agent. Those are like psychologically weird. FLCL is all over the place. Or like Excel Saga is wacky. Like it's a weird distinction for me to make because I will talk about a show that is very popular and well known, but I don't think that people recognize just how goddamn weird it is, or they celebrate how weird it is because it celebrates how weird it is. So there are a bunch of that I didn't put on here because for whatever reason I just didn't want to, but we'll talk about them now, and we'll start with one that like I think maybe is the most approachable of these four. Like if I was going to recommend you get into one of these and you were like, yeah, I just want something with like a premise that just is just like kind of out there, you could at least feels like something you could maybe get into, which is Bento. That's BN-TO. It's Bento. Because you're like, this is just a twist on on like your action shonen thing of like, all right, well, our lovable loser that doesn't really have any redeeming traits is involved in something and he's in way over his head, and there are a bunch of women there that are more talented than him but grow to love him and maybe help him rise to the occasion. And it's about getting bento and fighting other people in a supermarket to get it. Because like we can even imagine this, even if you're not aware of the idea of the Japanese housewives competing for the daily special. That might be something you've done in your own life where you're like, oh, I know that on Saturday they give out free donuts at this one place. You got to get there early. You got to wait in line. You got to fight over it, or you want to get a toy or something. You might be able to approach the idea of this. Of course, this is played out. The stakes have never been higher about getting this bento, which is nonsense, and it's silly and over the top, and everyone takes it seriously, which you need in a kind of show like this. So I think it's approachable and understandable from that perspective. You can walk into the show and if you wanted to check it out. So it leads in. It's a weird show, weird premise, but it is like that thing of like, okay, it's still somehow grounded in some sort of reality. You can maybe make the leap. In the same way that there's a show I didn't recommend and I wouldn't have put on here that is just like, it's all the athletic stuff, but it's girls hitting each other's butts, trying to knock them off like towers. It's just, and that's played to the 100th degree. I don't think that's a good show, and I wouldn't recommend it here. But it is, at least you can look at that and go like, all right, this is a sports anime, but like a ridiculous thing. Like that's kind of what Bento is. It's a shonen, but it's about making sure you get competing with other people for that great piece of food there. We're getting these things popping up here. Sorry about that. PDFs do this. It's awful. And we'll just move on to get rid of it. And let's talk about Seco Boys. Seco Boys is... I have said in the past that the only idol show that I've ever loved is Zombieland Saga. And I guess that's not true because Seco Boys is an idol show that I do love. And I don't... This is a wild... I'm jumping to a wild one here. We've ramped up. Bento, if Bento is approachable, this is 4 talking busts that inhabit the men that they are, that they have been the busts of, want to become an idol group. And they look like this photorealistic art, and everyone else is animated. And they can't move around. They were carted around, and they're trying to make it as an idol group. So it's all the stuff from idol stuff, and the I guess you can apply it to the wannabe, like, oh, I'm going to school, I'm doing this, I want to be an idol, kind of like struggles. But it's the ridiculousness of it being these inhabited characters, and it's bizarre, and it's sometimes it drops its premise to explore other things, and it's played for laughs, and it's so weird. But Seco Boys is one of the shows where, like, I don't know if you're gonna like it, but I'd like you to check it out. It's on Crunchyroll. It is available, and I do think that it's like worth your time. There are other shows kind of like this, of like the stone statue coming to life, mixing a photorealistic and like looking kind of like animation, like a British style of animation from like Monty Python. That's not fully this. It's just weird, and I like it. And I'm not doing a great job of selling this, but I think this is one of those things where, like, look, I don't know if you would like this if you got high, but if you got high, you might love this. That's all I'll say. Move on to the next show. I've talked about this before. I think I've talked about the show on 2 to 3 Pat Bear's Anime Club videos. Gal and Dino. It's just the simple premise. A gal, which is the kind of like bleached hair or heavily make-upped girl that maybe seems like she might be a troubled, but be trouble, not troubled, but be trouble girl who wakes up one day and there's a anthropomorphized dinosaur, a mute dinosaur that does not communicate with her, that she names Dino, who's just like living with her. And they just make it work. It's just a room. It's an Odd Couple story. It's just that one of the 2 Odd Couple people is a dinosaur. It is made by the same studio that brought us Pop Team Epic. And it is an adaptation of a manga. It is very weird. The premise is weird. Gal and Dino. Very strange. Just typical day-to-day stuff. We focus on him and interacting with the neighborhood animals and TV and being in the house, and her going to work and her friendships and her relationship that she's in, and how it all kind of fits together with her budding friendship with this dinosaur. And those episodes are like 11 minutes or 12 minutes. And then the rest of the time is filled with the live action portion, which sometimes is the exact same thing that you saw in that episode or a previous episode of Gal and Dino. They recreate it. And other times it's just complete and utter nonsense. And you'll see there's just a Japanese character actor playing himself, also doing some of the lines that the gal did. And then there's other things, and then there's references to Pop Team Epic and a Death Note parody, and then it like gets away from its premise, and then the pandemic happened. So some episodes you can see the people in the background are all wearing masks, they're shooting outside, and then other times they just shoot indoors, and it's just whatever, and maybe that was on the plan all along, or maybe it wasn't because they had to stop filming production of it. Um, and it goes in completely. There's a parody of Mission Impossible in this, and I don't know why. And it wraps up, and it's beautiful, and it's so strange. And there's just an episode where people just mean the dinosaur that we never explore again, and it's like, what was that? There's also like digital claymation style shorts that happen in the shows, and those are done by guest artists, and the whole presentation is wild and weird. And I don't think it was ever going to be huge, but I think it having a couple episodes come out and then being delayed for a season, like it took a whole like season and a half before it came back because of the pandemic, certainly hurt its momentum because it re-aired the episodes in Japan starting the beginning, but they had already put the episodes out on Funimation, so it was just like halfway through the season suddenly there was a new show, and that's terrible for international viewers because they have to know it's coming back. Maybe it's still on their wish list, maybe it isn't. And it's a fucking gem, god damn it. So I highly recommend you check out Gal and Dino. Maybe just watch fast forward to the second half of an episode. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be something you want to watch. I just know that I love it, and I think every part of the premise works and the whole thing works, but it's so weird. And now the one that's the most mainstream, and that's also a surprise in of itself. Because, yeah, let's talk about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Let's just talk about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Shonen series don't often change the main character too much. I've talked about this before, how Hunter x Hunter is so weird because it shifted within the show who the main character is. This show is basically just like, yeah, all right, I told that character's story. And maybe even, okay, well, I'm telling this character's story, but now he's an old man and we're going to follow his grandson. Or, all right, well, this character is not, he's like the co-main lead in this one. And then it's just like, yeah, we're just going to follow another offshoot of this. One of our main characters from like the second season, well, like, what if his son that he doesn't care about or do anything, well, he's also a JoJo. He's a Joestar, so we'll follow him. And then it's just like, this is just the animated ones. There's also the manga ones. There's also a wacky races thing. There's like, oh, yes, there are similarities between the many seasons, but like one is we got to fight a vampire, space vampires. And then it's just like, hey, there's like Egyptian stuff and we got to take care of this thing and we got to take care of like these like immortal beings. And, oh, well, there's one bad person, and remember that bad person, well, here he is, and now he's this, and he's that, and we got to fight him and travel all over the world, and then it's like, hey, we got to solve a small town murder mystery. And it also gets weird as hell. And then it's just like, yeah, what about some young gangsters? And then what about like a prison break? It goes all over the place. Every episode is weird. The fact that there's a talking dog is not the weirdest part of this show, and that should tell you something. That the talking dog is like, yeah, of course there's a talking dog. I'm not going to blink an eye. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure goes all over the place, and it is incredibly weird and wonderful, and I love it, and it's existed for so many years, and the mangaka put a self-insert character that he put a spin-off series about that we don't talk enough about, and there's like, the ideas are just presented and dropped, and there's most likely at some point in one of these characters' lives, he time traveled back in time to save his own life, and in the process also showed him what he wants to be in the future, which is him, because he's so inspired by the cool guy that saved him, which is himself. And we haven't seen that in the manga or the anime, but it definitely happened, except maybe it didn't. But if it didn't happen, why did they bother animating it? Because you can just fix some shit. But like the manga is just like, yeah, then we're going to do this. Yeah, we're going to go this way. Oh, that character? Yeah, whatever, I don't care. And it's awesome. And it all makes sense, and none of it makes sense, and it's great and terrible. And sometimes the retcons are like, what? And sometimes the rest like, great. But they're all like, I'm also, if JoJo's right for you. You can watch Jeff's, which is the Giant Bomb thing where Jeff Bacalar's and other Giant Bomb associated friends and friends are watching through the series. And like, also start with the third season, or start with Diamond is Unbreakable, or start with one of the last two seasons, which it's helpful to know some of the characters that show up, but you can always kind of just start JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I think Battle Tendencies is the weakest, although I also love Battle Tendencies or Tendency. It's all over the place and it's beautiful and it's kind of trash, but it's great trash. And like, I would say sometimes the hardest thing to believe is when they say how old some of these characters are, because they're like teens and you're like, fuck off, you aren't a teen. And maybe that's the hardest thing to actually acknowledge and accept, is that some of these grown-ass adult-looking characters are 16-year-olds or 15-year-olds. And you're like, fuck off. That's the hardest thing to accept about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Is that some of these characters are supposed to be teens. And then there's also a girl that she's in her 20s, but she looks like she's in her 20s, but she's 50. And you're like, oh, okay, sure. That's very early on. Forget that. Don't worry about that. And that's 4 shows with weird premises that I love. Let me know in the comments below. I asked for the call to action for this video is, let me know, what are shows that you love, that you think are a little bizarre, a little weird, a little out there? The premises that don't just like, and like I said, like Odd Taxi is just, it just happens to be that they're animals. Like, somebody was trying to tell me that Polar Bear Cafe is a weird show, and I was like, no, that's just a slice of life about a business where the characters are animals. Like, that's not weird. I watched and read some weird stuff. The weirdest manga stuff, we didn't get into weird manga. That's another video. The weird manga stuff, like, especially when they've just, the post-modern isekai genre, subgenres of like, yeah, but what if you're like a vending machine? Like, it's just gotten weird. For manga with weird premises that I love is its own separate video. I'm literally going to write that down as soon as this is done, because that might be something I do in the future. But thanks so much for watching this video. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. I assume you have. Hit the notification bar so you know when I put videos up. But honestly, genuinely, hitting the like button, leaving a comment, that is huge, so we can get more people to check out what I'm doing here. I would appreciate it very much. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hey, I hope the rest of your hour today is good. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.